Hey, Fanboy Nation.
This is your pal Daffy Duck, and you're watching.
We're watching Fanboy.
A fanboy, etc.
Fanboy Nation.
I assume Tom.
Premiering this Friday at the Golden State Film Festival at the TCL Chinese Theater at 2 p.m. Win a Trip to Browntown is a comedy that will not be rated by the MPAA, but will be on all digital platforms on March 22nd. Today, I'm speaking with the writer, the director, the producer, the star of the film. George, you're going to have to help me out with this Greek pronunciation of your last name. George A Tramountanas?
Hey, that was good. Yes, Tramountanas. Right. Very good.
All right, George, I'm going to be honest with you. I am fully convinced that you made this movie because your wife told you to go on a diet. So you're like, that's it. Not only am I going to go on a diet, but my entire weight loss journey is going to be a tax write-off as a film. And just to stick it to her, pun intended, we're taking a trip to Browntown with it, even though it's not based, as you've clearly made it, on a real life situation.
I should make a little addendum to that. Okay. It is partially based on a real life situation. Yes, weight. I needed to lose weight. And my wife, of course, every wife would like their husband to be a little more svelte, probably. And so, actually, the origin's a little less funny, kind of. The idea for the film came up. Actually was, so my mom passed away in 2016. See, already less funny. But she'd had cancer, and naturally during that time, I just been doing a lot of worry eating, and I put on a lot of weight, and I needed a reason to laugh. And I was just thinking to myself, what could make a guy, short of any huge cash prizes, be willing to lose a lot of weight? And I came up with this idea, and as strange as it sounded, I thought, that could be a thing. So I asked a couple friends who I consider normal guys. I said, would you think most husbands would be interested in seeing something like this? And they all quickly said yes. And so I thought I had an idea, and I proceeded from there.
And this is how the genesis of your first full-length feature film began. And by the way, my condolences on the passing of your mother. I know you will say it in English, but the Greeks often say, "May her memory be eternal."
Thank you very much. That's correct. Yeah, my mom had a great sense of humor, though, and she was one of my biggest fans. So she's actually listed as a co-producer on the film too.
So I'm gathering she wasn't Spartan.
No. Although actually her village was very close to Sparty, so.
Because, Spartans aren't necessarily known for their humor even today.
No, she came from I don't know if you're familiar with Greece, a region called Mani. There's a saying in Greece, some Greeks will argue with it, but if you go to Crete, they'll stab you in the back. If you go to Mani, they'll stab you in the front. So.
Fair enough. No, my cousin's wife is from Sparta, and I never believed that she was Spartan until I saw her get angry at him. I was like, there it is.
Yes. Which is why I married an American, I suppose.
So the genesis of this, unfortunately, it starts with something tragic in the passing of your mother, but this is also a helpful coping mechanism in allowing you to get back to who George was in life and allow you to regain your sense of humor.
Yes. The story, this is the part that mirrors me some ways. Any guy with big dreams, there may come a time in their life where they have to decide, do I go keep chasing, or do I, go the other direction, kind of. And I went to film school, and afterwards I tried for a little while, but I really wanted a family, and so did my wife, and things were hard in LA. LA is hard living for young couples. And so we came back up to Seattle, which is where we live now. And I raised two awesome kids who are also in the film. And and so this is the story of kind of a person who has to come to that decision and how you kind of make peace with that.
And does your wife have a cameo in the film?
My wife, it does make a cameo in the film as well. My wife wasn't confident enough to star in it, but she was a producer, huge support behind the scenes. And yeah, she has a small cameo. I had to include her too.
Does he have a shirt, or does she have a shirt that says "not based on reality"?
No, but that's a good idea. It's funny. One of her friends said, "You know, if this movie ends up being popular at all, you have to get comfortable with being the Browntown woman." And she goes, "Oh God," she's not too thrilled about that, but she's a good wife.
Well, the title is basically self-explanatory in the regard of how. Were there any other working titles in the process, or was it "Win a Trip to Browntown" from the get-go?
It was "Win a Trip to Browntown" from the get-go. And it was it's an interesting title though, because it just kind of depends on the person. I would actually say just over half have an idea of what it's about, but like a lot of people, especially my parents' age and older, no idea. There's like, where's Browntown? So I kind of like the fact that the title could be translated in a couple of ways if you don't know.
How do you convince your kids to be a part of this movie? And it's like, hey, we're making a movie about, something that isn't discussed in polite conversation quite often. And guess what, kids? You get a role in this film.
Well, it's kind of funny because both of my kids are super sweet and super polite, but they know I have kind of a dirty sense of humor. Some of their earliest words were, "That's inappropriate, Dad." And but I was always writing scripts while they were growing up. I taught film night classes, and while I was writing scripts, my kids would always tease me, "Oh, when are you going to write a part for us, Dad? When are you going to write a part for us?" And then I eventually did. I said, "I wrote a part for you, but you need to understand that this is not based in reality. Tiny portions are, but and they read it and they shook their heads going, "Oh, Dad, yeah, we like it." So
all right, well, that's good that they at least enjoyed the film.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be at the Golden State Film Festival in Los Angeles at the TCL Chinese Theater. What does that say to you for a guy who gave up on being a Hollywood person to now have it premiering at the most famous theater on the entire planet?
It's a huge thrill. I lived in LA, as I mentioned, I went to film school at USC. I worked different production companies, and ironically, all the time I lived down there, I never saw a movie at the Chinese theater, and I kept meaning to, but I never made it. So now the first film I get to see is my own in the Chinese theater. So I am beyond ecstatic about it.
Yeah, that's not Greek hubris whatsoever.
No, it's a really, really awesome feeling, and a bunch of the cast and crew are coming down and stuff, and it's just exciting. This little film we made on this tiny budget, we all worked super hard, super long, and in my opinion, it's paid off.
Well, you did something right. I mean, the movie is 94 minutes. It's got a great runtime. It's not going to sit there. The Batman was 3 hours. So you didn't give us a 3-hour movie on this journey, although that might be rather interesting to see the director's cut. When your wife reads the script and it actually becomes a producer on this, and then has a cameo in it, is she reading this fearful that people are going to think it's her, or does she realize that, like, okay, it's the story? Like, there has to be that moment of, oh my God, they're going to think it's me, versus, all right, it's just a story. Let's have some fun with it.
Well, I warned her ahead of time before she read it. I didn't tell her what it was, but it was just kind of funny because from the other room while she was reading, I could hear her screaming, "What?" Just all these noises, but she was warned and she knew. And as you know, by the end, it does have a very heartwarming feeling to it. One festival kind of said it's the Disney version of a porno, but I don't know if that's exactly right.
I wouldn't have said that, but there are other, this is a layered thing. I mean, there's body image issues in this. There's setting goals. There's all sorts of stuff that goes along with it in a humorous manner to get where we're going with the story. So Disney porno, not so much, but more so there's layers there that people might not anticipate.
Yeah, no, there's, and that's kind of what I was going for too, was that, I mean, as I grew up on films like Animal House and Porky's and Revenge of the Nerds.
Nothing that could be made today.
It would be difficult. I mean, there was some pushback to making this film even. But those are enjoyable films and they're fun films. And so I wanted to make something like that for people my age, adults. and I think we've achieved it, have that aspect to it, but also have kind of ideally a heartwarming, good feeling to it too.
So is this going to turn into like Porky's or Revenge of the Nerds, where we get a franchise out of it? At some point, the Revenge of Browntown instead of Porky's Revenge?
Well, that was the funniest thing. The youngest actor on the film who plays my third child, which I don't have in real life, the actor Gabriel Conrad. So he never knew what the movie was about. Obviously, his parents didn't tell him. But from the way it's described in the movie, and especially towards the end, he thought Browntown was this huge amusement park. And so he even painted a picture of it at one point and stuff. And it was great. He really wants us to make a sequel. He doesn't know what it's about, but he's like, we've got to really go, we've got to show the people what Browntown is. I was like, okay, we'll talk when you're older. Sure.
Okay. So dream sequence at a Cleveland Browns game is what we're going for.
Sure.
What does it feel like? You gave up on this dream, yet you come back to it, several years later. You have a family, you're established in Seattle. You filmed up in the Pacific Northwest, or did you film in Canada?
No, we filmed actually. So the funny thing was, you were mentioning my wife's concerns. We filmed in my house. So all the house scenes you see are in my home. And my wife was more concerned with the appearance of our home than she was with that people might think it's her. She was like, oh, the bedroom looks messy. I was like, well, it's supposed to look lived in, honey. And she's like, no, people can't see our messy bedroom. So that was the concern.
Listen, it's a set. It's okay. Don't, now you have to put in an end credit note. Your house does not really look like this on a daily basis.
That would have been a good idea.
That's for the DVD release, just that little snippet. The Golden State Film Festival, Gravitas picks it up. They've put out a bunch of great horror films, a bunch of great micro budget thrillers, some really fun comedies. Again, with a Win a Trip to Browntown with you guys. What's it feel like? Because Gravitas has come a long way in like the last 5 years to sit there and be a part of that family with getting them behind you on this.
It's honestly been amazing. I mean, you make these independent movies, and I made this movie, to be honest, I made it for me. It was something I felt like I really wanted to do. And I was excited to share the experience with my kids and my wife, because they'd heard me talking about it for years. So I made it for me, but the hope, of course, is always that other people see it. And I had a list of distributors that I was really hoping for, and Gravitas was right at the top, and it was an amazing feeling, and I'm super excited, and I hope it means that everybody gets to see it and everybody be talking about it.
Well, let's hope, because this is a fun movie and it doesn't get grotesque in how people would presume it. The pornography aspect isn't necessarily there, but there are a lot of jokes that go with the destination, shall we say. And you make it work without it being cringy or graphic in a sense. So congratulations with that, because to find humor in entendre, I think, is smarter than just being dirty on satellite radio versus on commercial radio.
Yeah, no, that was it's a very interesting line to walk when you're doing that. I kind of compared it to well, the other person said the Disney porno, which I didn't 100% agree with, but I thought it was a funny description. I kind of describe it as like Clerks with Parenthood, kind of the movie. It's just
the Steve Martin movie. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, well, it's like this family movie that children can't see. I don't know how else to explain. But yeah, it's just, I'm really pleased with the way it came out. I think it's fun.
If this did go to MPAA to get a rating, would it get a worse rating based on subject matter, or would it actually get a legitimate like PG-13?
That's, it's really funny because, as you mentioned, there's no nudity in the film. It's all entendres and innuendos. But so, we went out to a whole bunch of festivals, and we played at a lot of them. However, there were at least 3 that I know of, film festivals, that accepted us and then rescinded the invitation because their sponsors didn't want the film playing at the festival. And it's really interesting because I don't even know if the sponsors had seen the film. It was just somehow the topic of it. Yet they show movies with, horrible graphic rape scenes or violence or this and that. And this is just a very loving movie about 2 married people who getting a little older and just trying to spice things up.
So could you say that this will eventually be a marital aid to open up the conversation between couples that have been together for a decade plus?
Yes. So if you're a husband and you want to broach the subject with your wife, rent the movie.
I like that, George. I think that's really funny, man. Like, I'm thrilled for you because this is a funny movie. It's well made. What was the shooting schedule like, and what was the budget like? Because I don't see Paramount or Disney getting behind a picture like this.
Well, that's one of the reasons I decided on this topic. If I was going to make a movie independently, I kind of wanted something that wouldn't be made in the studio system, and this definitely wouldn't. The budget, I broke down the budget, and that's why I kind of used Robert Rodriguez as my guide. He wrote a great book on the subject. He said, write what you have. I have a house that's good for shooting. I had a friend that owned a restaurant, and the only other trick was getting the place where the Pitch Fest took place, really. And then I knew that there were people locally. We have a lot of great talent around the Pacific Northwest. Most of them work for free or next to nothing. The budget, the shooting budget was a very inexpensive car. The finished product was a very expensive car. But it's still, because of the pandemic, the end product stretched out, so I could afford that little extra portion towards the end.
So you went from a Kia Rio to a Mercedes E-Class.
Something like that. I don't even know how much Mercedes E-Class is, but yes, it was more expensive. And then the shooting schedule. So unfortunately, I don't look as svelte as I did when we shot it or after we finished. I lost 50 pounds over the shoot. It was a 3-month shoot. And because I wasn't paying everybody, and because I needed to show myself losing the weight as we shot over weekends for a 3-month period. So 12 weekends we made the film. And each week my pants got looser and looser. And towards the end, I was eating just a little bit of lettuce during the day, but it was worth it. It was good.
Is there a part of you that wanted to stay that weight for the entire shoot and just let the number of the scale drop just so it adds that level of humor to it? Like, you mentioned Clerks, but like Mallrats, where Shannon Doherty is changing outfits from scene to scene.
No, well, I mean, like you mentioned, I thought it was a good motivation for me to get in shape and to lose the weight. It was funny though. A friend of mine came up with a suggestion. He was like, well, why didn't you start at the end, start shooting and just gain 50 pounds and go the other way? I was like, no, that wouldn't have been so great for my health, but
your knees, your back, your kidneys. No, it wouldn't have worked out as well.
No, probably not.
Because then you'd have to get back to the weight that you didn't want to be at it to begin with.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I really would have looked heavy by that point.
With technology being as advanced as it's become, and we essentially have 4K cameras in our pockets at this point, does it make it easier for independent filmmakers? Because I've noticed Colorado has a small pocket of indie filmmakers. Alabama has come a long way. Atlanta is essentially the Hollywood of the Southeast. Florida, especially St. Petersburg, has an independent film market. Austin's Austin, so that's like the Hollywood of the South. Would Texas? Well, Texas is its own entity. I would have said Midwest, but it's not necessarily that. But that sort of thing where there's these pockets of communities for independent filmmakers because technology has become so advanced that we don't necessarily need these $50,000 cameras in order to do what we could do with a cell phone.
I agree. Although I will say that there's a caveat to that. So the great news is anybody can make a film. And when you go to festivals and you're trying to get distribution, that's one of the things that makes it more challenging nowadays, is that there's 10,000 films out there. The thing that ideally stands apart is having a good film. You need to have people who know how to shoot 4K. We had an awesome cinematographer whose name is Guy Staley. He is a professional. He really wanted to do the film once he read the script. He knows how to shoot. He's done tons of commercial shoots. So that's why it was lit correctly. And that's why it looks more like a film than something you might just see on YouTube. And the sound, of course, is extremely important too. Our sound person, Jeremy Arnold, professional sound person, had us all mic'd up and did it all correctly. So yes, anybody can shoot a 4K film, but shooting a 4K film well is a whole different subject matter.
All right, George, I'm going to presume, since you're Greek, that you're Greek Orthodox.
Yes.
Lent is coming up in about another week and a half. The movie's premiering in LA and then going to VOD in the middle of Lent on March 22nd. Do you just go to confession now, or do you wait till Father Yanni sees the film and then go talk to him?
Well, the funny thing is, I'm actually a pretty religious person. I don't know if you noticed during the film, there's icons on the walls.
Yeah, it's like my house.
I was a Sunday school teacher. I was part of our church's parish council. But, the thing is, people know me, and we all have different sides to us, and just because, I can make a movie about violence and murder, that doesn't make me a murderer. I can make a movie about a pervert, and although this person isn't a pervert necessarily in the movie, but you know what I'm saying.
A rather risque topic.
Yes, exactly. As a matter of fact, I won't say which one, but it was a Greek film festival in the United States that accepted our film and then pulled it back. And I was surprised they accepted us at first, but glad. But then I totally understood, because I know that there would probably be some priests that would show up to the Greek screenings. And I was like, oh, well, that'd be fun to attend, though.
Right. Your movie running right after Man of God about Saint Nectarios.
Exactly.
Back to back. We went really heavy with the life of this saint from 100 years ago. Let's make them laugh. I don't really see that at a Greek festival at this point.
I was so bummed, though. I really wanted to go.
You know what? Let's just say it's the Greek festival in Toronto, so we can just be mad at Canada no matter what.
Blame Canada. South Park.
Exactly. Listen, George, are you going to be in LA for the screening?
I am.
Okay.
I don't know if you're located in LA. If you are,
I am, but unfortunately, I can't make it on the 25th. But I have seen the film. So, how long are you going to stick around in Southern California?
I'll be there through Monday.
Okay. Let's see. You know what? Let's try to coordinate something where we can at least, get together for a cup of coffee or something.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
I'd love it.
George, where can we find you on social media if we want to connect with you and the film?
Well, we're on Facebook, Instagram, and the film has its own website, triptobrowntown.com. We are running a contest for Apple pre-orders. The film should be available on Apple any day now. The second it's available, if you buy it, email your receipt to triptobrowntown@gmail.com. You'll be entered in a contest to win cool shirts and hats and all sorts of stuff.
But the entry is just the proof of purchase.
Just the proof of purchase.
Okay. It's not a video requirement. There's no photo requirement. We want to make sure that like you don't get any surprises in the email.
Yes, please, no surprises. It was kind of funny. We did joke about other various ideas for contests, but none were acceptable. So we just kept it simple.
George, listen, man, it's been a great pleasure chatting with you. Stick around a couple of minutes after the interview. We'll commiserate a little more about this. 2 p.m. Friday, February 25th at the TCL Chinese Theater, Golden State Film Festival, March 22nd from Gravitas, the VOD release and DVD release. George, congratulations on the film and using entendre in a way that made this funny without being R or even X-rated.
Thank you very much. I'm glad you enjoyed it.